LSU last year, of course, the story of the season was that the pitching staff was beset by injuries. It was a great coup getting Watson and Duplantis and Hess all back. And those guys had good seasons. Duplantis became LSU's hits leader. He lost out the SEC career hits leader record to Jake Mangum. So they both broke the record, but Mangum ultimately ended up winning that race. Watson had a nice season as well. Hess started in the rotation, moved to the bullpen, but had an up-and-down season. Todd Peterson had a really great year in a mixed role. Both he and Hess went in round 7. But LSU this year returns so much on the pitching staff, but Mainieri, who normally on this day at Baseball Media Day, he will run through his if we played a game today, this would be our batting order, and he'd run through his starting 9. But he's like, I couldn't do that today because they have so many jobs, in particular on the infield, up for grabs. What we know is that Daniel Cabrera is going to be in right field. Giovanni DiGiacomo and Mo Hampton are going to battle for center field. It's very likely that you're going to see Hal Hughes at shortstop and Saul Garza behind the plate and Cade Beloso at first base. Job in left field, at third base, at second base, very much up for grabs. But what we know also is that LSU's got a ton of arms. And the story clearly was getting those arms healthy this offseason. This is what – can you play 10, please, Musso? This was Mainieri explaining what they did this offseason with their pitchers to monitor them, to make sure they got healthy and they stay healthy and hopefully will throughout this year.
We've addressed some things that I think have really worked. Our athletic trainer, Corey Couture, has been real involved in the amount of throwing the guys do each day. We're utilizing technology. All the pitchers throw with a sleeve called a MOTUS sleeve, MOTUS, that has a little gadget in the elbow that can gauge the stress on a pitcher's elbow. The figures are inputted into the computer, and then every morning Corey sends a computer printout to Alan and I and shows the numbers of each pitcher, and then he puts his personal notes on how many throws a particular pitcher should be allowed to throw on a particular day. Some days he'll send it to us and say, A.J. Labus should not pick up a baseball today. But A.J. Labus doesn't pick up a baseball. So I think we're learning more and more about the importance of recovery for kids, just pure rest, let him rest. We're giving them more days off of throwing than we ever have before, and I think that's been a positive thing. All I can tell you is this fall, the velocities were up, there were no injuries, and the guys still pitched well.
You know, it was so interesting listening to Paul go through that explanation. It reminded me a lot of listening to Ed Ogeron with some of the tactics that Jack Marucci's implemented with football, where they put monitors on their players that measure exertion. So they know speed, like how MPH, like how fast these guys are running, their bursts, so they can measure heart rate, exertion, like how healthy and fresh they are as the season goes along. Feels very similar here with the pitchers. And Mainieri and Dunn are deferring completely to Corey Couture and the training staff saying, hey, look, this guy doesn't need to touch a baseball today. He don't touch a baseball. So here's hope. If velocities were up, injuries were down, here's hoping that continues throughout the season. So that's a very good thing. There are no restrictions on anybody. They're all healthy and good to go. Maybe the most talking to Mainieri today, obviously Cole Henry is going to be the guy at the front of the rotation. Big battle for the rest of the weekend rotation. Can you play 5 moves? So we know Henry is going to be your Friday guy. What happens the rest of the weekend?
Right now, I think it's a competition between A.J. Labus, Landon Marceau, and Eric Walker. Right now, I would have to say that Labus and Marceau probably have a step up on Walker. And if that were to be the case, I think Eric Walker would be a phenomenal midweek starter for us, at least to start the season. Then the battle is who pitches second and who pitches third, and we're going to let that play out here over the course of these next 3 weeks again. I have a feeling what I think might happen, but I'm gonna let the results determine that.
Doesn't that put into perspective how deep this staff could be if everybody stays healthy and pitches well? Eric Walker was a freshman All-American, and he might be your 4th guy, and that's not even including Jaden Hill, who they have a whole other plan for Jaden Hill, which we'll get to in a second. Point is, the depth, the talent, the arms on this staff it looks really impressive, provided they can keep everybody healthy. Let's do this, Moose. Let's do 9. So Jaden Hill is the guy who last year was in that rotation to start the season, and the arm talent was incredible. The size, the velocity was awesome. But he pitched 2 weeks, and then he was shut down. They just couldn't get him back healthy again. So Mainieri gushed over Jaden Hill and the arm talent and his potential, but they got to keep him healthy. So he went through what their plan is for Jaden Hill this year. And you heard right there as he went through it, Henry on Friday, and then some combination of Marceau, Walker, Labus on the weekend. Didn't even mention Jaden Hill. So here's the plan for Jaden Hill as they start the season.
Jaden Hill is going to be the wild card, I guess is what you call him, of our staff. This guy, he's got the second best arm on our staff. Maybe it's better than Cole Henry, to be honest with you. The only problem was he was hurt last year. The temptation is to throw him right into the rotation and say, hey, that's our second best guy or maybe our best guy. But I think that the key is we've got to keep him healthy. And if it means taking baby steps along the way, even though you're tempted to do more, I think we've got to be really smart and prudent in how we use him. So I'm going to put him in the bullpen to start with. But this is how I'm going to use him out of the bullpen, at least in the first couple weekends. I'm going to designate when he's going to pitch, and he's going to pitch then no matter what the situation of the game is. So if it's opening night and I say he's going to pitch innings 8 and 9, if we're up 6-0 or losing 6-0, he's still going to pitch at that time so that his preparation for the weekend will be much like a starter's preparation. I'm not going to get him up, sit him down, get him up, oh, we don't have the lead, sit down. We're just going to get him back out there, let him throw, let him be healthy, let him be confident.
So he described Jaden Hill as a wild card, and can you imagine? Like, if he stays healthy and is great, like, you could put him in the rotation, and that's nails. Or you got that cat sitting in the back in the bullpen just waiting to ice teams in the 8th and 9th inning. So either way, just keep them healthy, man. They got, like, you can tell this staff is as deep and talented as they've had in the Mainieri, certainly since Alan Dunn's been here, but probably as far back as Paul Mainieri's been here in year 14. Offensively, and something Mainieri reiterated several times is they're going to have to pitch it well early while they figure out what they have and who's going to start where, and they figure out roles on this team. So it may be a challenge early to figure out where the offense is going to come from, but they do have a new hitting coach. Remember, one of the other stories from this offseason is they added Eddie Smith. Sean Ochinko no longer on staff. They added Eddie Smith from Tulane as the new hitting coach. So Paul Mainieri went through what it's been like having him on staff now working with these players.
Eddie was born to be a coach, Eddie Smith, and I had him my last 2 years at Notre Dame. He wasn't the best player on our team. He was a utility infielder, but when he left Notre Dame, he went to Virginia, worked there for 5 years. He ran his own program in a junior college in Washington. He was a national coach of the year. He's unbelievably intelligent, organized, and just has a plan. I'm telling you, the players love him. Every day they come to work with him. He's got it mapped out what they're going to do. They trust him immensely. Maybe he'll be our Joe Brady. You know, I don't know if he'll make that kind of an impact or not. Hitting a baseball is a hard thing to do, and you got to have a lot of talent to do it. But I can tell you this, that the kids they look like they're getting better to me every day.
They needed a plan. They needed a better plan at the plate. And here's hoping Eddie Smith delivers that. Now, one of the other really curious things about this is he left a full-time paid job on Tulane staff to be LSU's volunteer assistant, which is part of the thing that sucks about college baseball and the fact that the third paid assistant was voted down. But here's hoping that gets back on the ballot sooner than later and they can enact that. But it seems like a major coup for LSU, having a guy with that much experience as a hitting coach and instructor working with their players, going through reports and giving them a plan when they go to the plate. So here's hoping LSU improves there. But that's probably the spot where we're going to have to wait and see what the improvement is. That's who's going to start where in the field and what the batting order is going to look like. I mean, Mainieri even said he toyed with moving Daniel Cabrera to center field and might even bat him leadoff. I mean, just a lot of possibilities there as they figure out what's going to happen where. For so long, they could rely on Antoine Duplantis at the top of the lineup or Josh Smith as an option there and Zach Watson in that 3-4-5 right there in the middle of the lineup. So it's going to be different this year. They'll figure out roles. But, man, Mainieri's got an awful lot of talent, a lot of clay to mold here over a 56-game stretch, hopefully getting LSU back into a national seed and to Omaha to try to compete for the program's 7th national title.